Well, it all started because the students had written me a letter to ask me some questions regarding school safety and gun violence. And I answered their questions and told them that the next time I was in the area, I'd be happy to stop by and meet with them. And they followed up with that. So I started the morning by meeting with the school, the student leadership group in the school, all the seniors over in the library, and then came over and met with the 8th grade class today. And the dominant question was school safety and gun violence prevention. Articulate students, great questions, obviously concerned, and it makes you feel good about our future knowing that these kids are growing up and are going to take the reins.
Hello, Congressman Thompson. My question is, if teachers were to be armed, how would we fund that?
Well, that's one of the issues I don't think I covered. But as I said earlier, that teachers are already overworked and underpaid. The one that I like the best, I'll digress a little bit. Somebody sent it to me, and I think it was from the United Teachers of Los Angeles. It's a real good little video. It said, "We're teachers, and we want to be armed. We want to be armed with more school counselors. We want to be armed with more school nurses. We want to be armed with better nutrition programs." Went through the whole list that all of us know are lacking. So I would suggest that we'd be better served finding the funding and providing those things rather than try to find the funding to arm teachers who, to date, I've not found one who told me they wanted to be armed. I've had a lot of them tell me they don't want to be armed, and I don't know how many teachers here are gun proficient. And again, how well could you do if there was somebody at the other end of the school with
a handgun? No, you can't.
You lob bullets over. Wow, it doesn't make any sense. And on that line, after the Las Vegas shooting, remember I told you I've met with just about everybody who's lost somebody. After the Las Vegas shooting, I got a call. They wanted me to meet with a gentleman who was there. I met with a bunch of the people who were either shot, lost loved ones, or were in the melee of it. And then we got a call. There was a guy that wanted to come in and meet with us, and I met with him. And he was one of the performers. He was a country western singer. And he was on the bus when Las Vegas happened, and he said I'm pro Second Amendment. He said I'm a gun guy. He says, as a matter of fact, the week before, he said, before I left to go on this tour, so it was my father's birthday, and I bought him an AR-15 or that type of weapon. He said, I have a gun. He said, it was in the bus. He said, and when the shooting started, he said, I grabbed my gun, my handgun, and I headed for the door. And they had a security guy there. He said, guys, where are you going? He said, well, there's somebody shooting out there. I'm going to go help. He said, well, number one, the shots are coming from a long way away. And what are you going to do with a handgun? And number two, how far out of the bus do you think you get with your handgun before a cop responds and shoots you and kills you? So I mean, there's just all kinds of things that can go wrong. It's just, you're a football player?
Yeah.
Well, when they first came out with a forward pass, you know what, I think it was Vince Lombardi, you know what he said? He said, there's only 3 things that can happen, and 2 of them aren't good. So, it's kind of along those lines. It's just, the cops train all the time. Military train all the time. I don't care how proficient your teacher is, they don't have the time to stay up on it. And it's a real concern.
Thank you.
And I don't know where the money comes from.
Good morning, Mr. Thompson. I'm Taylor Roderick. I'm a junior here at Northland High School, and I'm the ASB secretary. And I was wondering how or could the government implement that local law enforcement agencies all handle school threats in a consistent manner, because the difference between Sonoma County and Lake County is extremely different than these things.
Yeah, and it's not just on how they deal with the threat. It goes further than that. Yeah, I don't know. You guys have drills or active shooter drills?
We do lockdown drills. We haven't done an active shooter drill.
Schools across the country now are doing active shooter drills. And it's got to be terrifying. When I was a kid, we did duck and cover drills because there was concern with bombs being dropped, and they'd have us hide under the desk. And I remember, I think I was about in the 4th grade. I got in trouble for it because I foolishly asked the teacher, because the deal was, well, if they drop a bomb out here in the play yard, you don't want to be under the desk. And I said, if they drop a bomb in the play yard, how in the world being under this desk am I going to be safe? You know, but they've been having these for a long time. Fire drills, now active shooter drills, which is really, really terrible. But I think schools need to consider this, and they need to figure out what happens if there's an emergency. And it's better to be prepared than not prepared. We saw that with the fires. You know, we had a real good example is there's one bank that almost lost, or one credit union in an area that almost lost their entire business. They didn't miss 1 minute of service to their membership. Some banks just closed down and left. They didn't know what to do. So I think it's important that we are prepared. Some areas have better plans than others. Sonoma County has a great program where they have an outreach from their mental health office to all the different schools in the area. And they train student volunteers. They have a cadre of students on each campus, train them to pay attention and notice when something's going south with somebody. They say, hey, Bob's just not acting right. Something's a little off. And there's a hotline they can call in. They have a mobile unit from the county mental health that will come out, meet with the students. It's a great program, and folks should be doing that. And there's a number of those, and they vary within school districts, not only in a single congressional district, but across states and across the country. And some of the legislation that I'm pushing, I try and provide resources for that, and recognize successful programs and provide grants to any schools that want to emulate those programs. And I think we should be doing that.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
She's ready.
All right, go ahead. Ferg, last question, and then
Thank you, Mr.
he's got to
Thompson.
get to the 8th grade.
My name is Allie Ferguson, and my question to you is in regards to training teachers to bear arms on campus. My concern is that this will make guns more accessible to potential school shooters and put everyone at risk. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. It's one of the things that has to be considered, and I've heard it from teachers. She said, "What do I do? What if it?" And you're not, if the rest of the student body is a fraction as courteous and responsible as all of you, we're in great shape in the future. But some schools, they got problems. And it's not uncommon for a student to overpower a teacher. And what would happen, teachers have told me this, so what happens if there's a problem at school, I'm overpowered and they take my gun? What happens if, I lock my gun in the drawer and somebody takes it? So that's certainly something that needs to be considered. One of my colleagues, by the way, had his gun stolen yesterday out of in Atlanta, Georgia. And he's a decent guy. And I texted him on this morning. He and I do a spin class together on Wednesday morning. So they stole him. The headline was great. You can't. It falls in the category you can't make this stuff up. Category is Congressman's car broken into, his gun and his Bible are stolen. So I sent him a text. I went, "Your gun and your Bible? Question mark?" I said, something like that would never happen at spin class.
All right, guys, so before we let the Congressman go, we're going to do two things. First, we're going to give him a round of applause. And then let's get everyone kind of up here and get a picture with us, Mr. Congressman.
Jeff, would you stand inside there?
Yes.
You guys are great. Questions?
Kind of fill it in, guys.
Scoot back.
Yeah.
Oh, you're fine. We'll just kind of fill it, guys. There you go. That was easy.
Come on, man.
You can go right in the middle. Very good. Very good. Can you see around me?
Yeah.
I don't know where we're, I know.
Right, you can't go.
Me? Okay, here we go.
One, two, three.
Yeah.
Look around everywhere.
Get it? Got it. All right. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you guys.
Okay, guys, I want you guys to sit back down. We're going to continue this discussion for just a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks very much.
All right, Mitch, Ted.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Nice timing.
Yeah.
Hey
I
guys,
was
you're
watching.
awesome. Senator,
Senator.
Congressman Thompson. These are, before I was a principal, I was a social studies teacher at the Middletown, so all of these students, not all of them, but most of them were students of mine.
That's why they were so good.
You
so
are
smart.
looking at some of the brightest that we have here, for sure. These are awesome kids, so I enjoyed teaching them, so thank you.
And you know-
Thank you for giving them this experience.
And you know, I was a senator, so you're not.
I know, I did.
California Senate.
And
California's senator.
And as proof, he's not in this district anymore, but Bill Dodd, who was an assemblyman in Lake County, now a senator in another area. The Assembly and the Senate have these great jackets with a seal that they wear. And Dodd, I used to tease him about it. And so he sent me one that says, Congressman Mike Thomspon, Senator Emeritus.
Nice.
Very good. Awesome. All righty.
Thanks again.
All right, you guys, thank you very much.
I mean, I am old enough that I can remember some of that that nuclear weapon drills that we did back in I guess that would have been the early 70s. I do remember that. I remember it was stressful. And I know a lot of my kids are stressed. That burden gets placed onto them too, and it happens naturally because we have to do lockdown drills and we have to do drills that are related to a shooter on campus. And how can that not add anxiety to kids and make them not in a mental place to fully be learning and to fully be engaged in school? So yeah, it's very frustrating that has to be in our school day, but it is right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. I'm very good for your realities. Mr. Thompson just spoke to our leadership, high schoolers, and we really appreciate that they got the opportunity to do that. The congressman here is our U.S. representative for California's 5th Congressional District. Very importantly, he is the current chairman of the House Gun Violence Prevention Task Force. He is a Vietnam veteran and awarded with the Purple Heart, which is very admirable. Yes. And he is born locally in the town of St. Helena, California. At St. Helena Hospital. I share with these kids that many of them probably were born in the same hospital. How many were born in St. Helena Hospital do they know? So we welcome you, and once again, a big round of applause for
Thank you all very much. I don't think I need the microphone. Can you all hear me? Yeah. I was asked just to tell you a little bit about myself and then open it up to questions. And I think the principal did a good job of that already, so I'll really cut it short. I'm the congressman from our district, the 5th district in California, 5th congressional district. And I've represented all or part of Lake County every year that I've been in Congress. Before that, for 8 years in the state senate. I was born in St. Helena. I grew up there. I still live there today. And who are the St. Helena Hospital babies? I was born there. One of my kids was born there. One of my grandkids was born there. My mother was born there. My father was born there. And my wife's a nurse there today. So I've got a little bit of history in our district. I've been in Congress for 20 years. As I said, I was 8 years in the state senate before that. I'm on the Ways and Means Committee. That's the committee that does all the tax laws of the country. I'm on 2 subcommittees. I'm on the Health Subcommittee, and we have jurisdiction over the Medicare program. And I'm on the General Revenue Subcommittee, and that's the subcommittee that writes the tax laws. And mentioned, I'm the chairman of the House Committee on Gun Violence Prevention, and as you can imagine, we're real busy. We should be busier, but we're real busy working on public safety issues related to gun violence prevention. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions you might like.
All right, so when I call you guys, you can stand up and ask the senator your question. Okay, so our student body president, that's the first question. Her name is Celine Candu. So Celine, why don't you stand up and ask your question?
So, a question that some people were wondering was that why do you want to become a California State Congressman and now U.S. Congressman, and when are you going to do this?
Okay. Why did I want to run for office, and why did I want to run for Congress? So that's an interesting story as to how I got to where I am. I was kind of a late bloomer, and I'll share something with you that you may not know. I didn't do real well in school, and right after my last basketball season in high school, I dropped out of school. And I tried going to Santa Rosa College. I just figured I knew more than the teachers, and knew more than my parents, and most of the other adults. And Santa Rosa Junior College didn't work out so well, so I ended up going in the Army. And I was in the Army for about 6 seconds when I realized that my parents, my teachers, and other adults were a lot smarter than I gave them credit for. And so I did my time in service. You heard I went to Vietnam, and I was shot up there. I came back and went to work in the wine and grape industry at home in Napa Valley. And then after a while, I realized that, and I went to Napa College too, so I realized that I was really dumb doing what I did in education. I got a GED in the Army, came out, went to work at Napa. I went to school at Napa College, went to work, and then I transferred to the it's known as the Harvard of the state college system, Chico State. And I was there. There's some Chico State people here?
Who's Chico State?
There we go.
Yeah, State.
So I went to Chico. I got a degree there. I stayed. I got a graduate degree there. And then one of my professors suggested that I apply for a program in the state legislature. I did, and I was selected, and I went to Sacramento and worked for a year on the House Assembly Committee on Education. When that was done, somebody hired me, and I was the chief of staff for an assemblyman for a couple of years, and he lost the race to the Senate, and then his successor came in and asked me to be her chief of staff. And I did that, and then when I left the legislature and I went back home, folks at home asked me to run for the state senate. They were not happy with the job our state senator was doing. So I did. I ran for that seat. I won. I served 2 terms, 8 years. We had term limits then. You could only serve 2 4-year terms. And at the completion of my second 4-year term, I had planned to go back home and on a full-time basis and do other things. But a bunch of folks in the district came out and they said, no, you know this stuff, we like the job you're doing, and we don't like the job our congressman is doing, so you need to run for Congress. And that was in 1998 when I was elected, and I've been in Congress ever since. First time in 1990, state senate.
All right, Brandon Blackman.
What do you like most about it? What do you like most about it?
Great question. What do I like most about my job? Without question, I can tell you the best thing about the job is whenever you're able to help someone. And those are the things that don't really get newspaper headlines. They don't get ticker tape parades. But those are things that really mean a lot to individuals. So when somebody calls and they say, hey, I've got this terrible problem, you know they're at their wits' end. You know they've tried everything, and they're calling their congressman because they can't get whatever it is that they need in regard to help. So when my staff and I can come forward and help them out, it really feels good. And as I say, there's no newspaper story on it. You just know you're doing something that really And we've got great examples. We had a case that originated right here in Lake County, and my staffer Brad, who's with me here, is the one that worked on this. But we had somebody we knew, a friend, who had a rental house, and their tenant was always behind in her rent. And they called and asked for our help. And they said, the lady says she's getting shortchanged by Social Security. And so some months she can pay, some months she can't, some months it's a half a month's pay. And they said, we really like her, we don't want to move her out, but we need to pay for our house, and we can't subsidize her rent. And the lady said, would you look into it with Social Security? She says, and FYI, she doesn't live in your district. She lives over in the Sacramento Valley. That's where their rental house was. And she'd already been to her member of Congress who looked into it and said, nope, Social Security's right, she's getting all the money she deserved. Well, we got into it, we started looking and digging and making calls, and sure enough, the lady was right. She was being shortchanged. So we were able to intercede, get her Social Security reimbursement up to where it should be, and she was able to stay in the house. And it had been such a problem that they gave her back pay of $91,000. That's how long she was shortchanged. And so, we saved the woman. She would not have had any place to go had it not been for the office involved with that. And those are the sort of things that are really, really important.
So there's the second part, right, Brandon? What do you least like about it?
Pardon me?
What do you least like about it?
What do I least like? How long do I have? Well, I least like the fact that there's a real divide in Congress, and it's reflective of the divide across the country. And it makes it very, very difficult to get things done. I told you that I'm the chair of the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force. There's some things that we could do. There's things that we could have done 5 years ago, and should have done 5 years ago, that would have made a real difference in the area of gun violence. And yet the divide and the partisanship has been insurmountable to date. So we haven't been able to do it. And I can give you examples in a number of different policy areas where that's the case. And if we could fix that somehow, it'd be a wonderful job, and we'd be able to help people a lot more than we are.
All right, let's see if we can use this mic so that the questions can be heard a little bit better. Nathan Zavala, where's Nathan? Here you go. Use this microphone here.
What are your housing conditions like in Washington, D.C., and who pays for it? How much time do you spend in there?
Housing. What is the housing condition?
For members of Congress?
And who pays for it?
Good question. You're on your own. If you're elected to Congress, you go to Washington. I'm there. I come home to the district every evening. So I will either fly to Washington on Monday morning, and then if that's the case, I come home on Thursday night. Or I fly to Washington on Tuesday morning and come home Friday night. And it rotates. So it's Tuesday to Friday, come home for the weekend, and then it's Monday to Thursday. It works that way. And you're on your own. It's a real bone of contention with me, not that you're on your own, but it's a bone of contention with me that some of my colleagues live in their office. They come to Washington, they sleep in their office, they join the gym so they have a place to take a shower and stuff. And that's troubling for me. I think it's wrong. First of all, I think there's a legal issue that comes into play, because you're getting some sort of compensation that you're not paying tax on. So at a minimum, these guys should be paying tax on whatever the cost of whatever money you save by living in your office. But I think it's just wrong. It's where you work. You have staff and interns come in and out. And the last thing some intern or some staff person you should see is you in your pajamas when you're at night. It's just not professional. But bottom line, you do what you do. I have a house there. I made that decision when I was first elected. I paid for my house just like anybody else. I own my own property.
Alex Bernetti.
What is a typical day like for you in Washington DC, like when you're at home in the fifth district?
What is a typical day like? At work and at home?
Yeah. Okay. Typical day. Well, I told you I fly into Washington. Let's start with Monday. So I'll fly into Washington on Monday. I land about 3:15, 3:20, and it's about an hour's drive from the airport to the office. I get in the office, I meet with my staff, we go over what's happening that day, what's happening that week. On the fly-in days, we have a suspension calendar votes. That's like a consent calendar. So there'll be a couple of votes we have to make, votes that everybody agrees on, so they're not controversial, we're not debating for a long time. So that starts at I think 6:30 is when the Monday votes start, or Tuesday votes. Tuesday's the fly-in. And then I'm a member of a group called the Blue Dog Democrats, which is a group of fiscally conservative Democrats. We meet at 6 o'clock on the fly-in days, and I'm also a member of the Policy and Steering Committee, and that's the committee that determines committee assignments for all the Democrats, and it also is the committee that determines our policy agenda, and that starts at 6. So I'll finish up in my office, I'll walk over, I'll check in with the Blue Dogs, and then I'll go to Policy and Steering, and then Policy and Steering ends when the votes are called at 6:30. I'll go over and I'll vote. Then there's always something going on Monday night. I'll have a dinner, I'll have a reception, I'll have some meeting, something going on. And then Tuesday, and me personally, my day starts really early. I go to the gym at about 6 o'clock in the morning, every morning. And then from the gym go to my office. I'm in my office. I go to the gym from 6 to about 7:30, quarter to 8, and then grab a cup of coffee and go to my office. And then my day is just filled with meetings, with phone calls, with votes that we make, committee hearings. I'm on the Ways and Means Committee. We have hearings, we have informational hearings, policy hearings. I'll go to those. And then every night there's something going on. There's a fundraiser, a reception, people in town. This last week, the Redwood Credit Union was in town, so I met with them one night. I had a fundraiser this last week, so I went to my fundraiser, and then that happens all week until we fly out. And at the last votes on either Thursday or Friday, I take off to the airport as soon as I can and fly back to the district. And then when I'm in the district, for instance, yesterday I flew in San Francisco, drove up to the district. I didn't have any meetings when I got in last night because I had a dentist appointment yesterday evening. So I did that. I had dinner with my wife. And then this morning I got up. I had a conference call with my staff. I had a conference call with an organization from somebody in the district's out. And then I had a radio interview. And then I drove up here, met with the seniors, met with you. We've got 2 more meetings here. I go back to 3 more meetings here. And I go back to Santa Rosa tonight. There's the Sonoma County Democratic Club's annual crowd meet, and I'll do that. Tomorrow I have 2 town hall meetings, one in Sonoma Valley and one in Vallejo. Sunday I have a day off, and do a bicycle ride, and have a really with my wife, and I leave Monday morning to go back to the city.
All right, Lily Sampson.
May I ask if you're a gun owner and have you ever fired an AR-15?
Are you a gun owner and have you fired an AR-15?
I am a gun owner. I have fired an AR-15. And I'm also, as you heard, a veteran. I was a combat infantryman. I was a platoon leader in the Vietnam War. And I carried an M16, which is the rifle that the AR platforms try and emulate. extensive background in firearms, firearm use, and all that stuff. What'd you use your belt buckle? I got mine right in bucking.
That is where?
All right, Harper Reno.
It's working now.
Yeah. You guys can hear me okay, right?
Okay, just making sure.
You have a transcript, so I can't hear you.
Yeah, that's all right, I will. It's a long one, so loud and proud, Harper.
Should people be allowed to have AR-15s? Do you support the re-enhancement of Diane Clancy's 1994 law that banned assault rifles?
Should you have? Yeah. Okay, here's the deal. Personally, I don't think military-type assault weapons should be in civilian hands. And I have a long-standing position on that, and I'll tell you why. As I mentioned, I'm a gun owner, I'm a hunter, I believe strongly in the Second Amendment, and I think especially now, with the increase in military-type assault weapons in the community, is going to be bad for gun owners in the future. There are fewer people that own guns today that have ever owned guns before. Every year, fewer people are gun owners. And that means more people aren't and don't have any experience with them. And as we continue to see gun violence grow, there's more and more people are becoming frustrated with the lack of response to this. And what you're seeing is more anti-gun people now than ever before. And I think that the military-type assault weapons exacerbate that divide. And at some point, the numbers are going to flip, and the gun laws that we're going to have to live with are going to be more difficult than anyone today can imagine. Now, recognizing that there are 15 million military-type assault weapon long guns in circulation, it's really, really hard to unring that bell. So I don't know how you do it. It's really tough unless you do something like Australia did and ban all semi-automatic weapons and figure out how to dispose of them. But it becomes really, really hard. Now, in regard to gun violence prevention, there's one thing that can be done that will save more lives than banning assault weapons, and that's expanding background checks. So before somebody buys a gun, they have to have a background check to make sure they're not a criminal or make sure they're not dangerously mentally ill. That's been my focus and my position in Washington. That is what we need to do first and foremost. Get that passed, and that will save a lot more lives in the short run and the long run. And we need to have a continued conversation as to what else we can do to figure out how to get the gun problem under control.
All right, Noah Williams. Where's Noah?
Assault rifles have been around for over a century, so why do you think there has been a dramatic increase in mass shootings?
They've been around over a century, so why do we have such a dramatic increase now in mass shootings?
Well, yeah, they have. I guess, you know, if you do it by date, muskets were assault weapons at one point, but I think it's pretty ridiculous to think that a musket falls in the same category as an AR-15. You know, remember why AR-15s were made. They were made to kill people. They were made because the weapons that were being used were not as effective, and they wanted something that was light. It could be easily maneuvered. You notice that all of these things have a barrel shroud on them, so your hand doesn't burn up after you fire a whole bunch of shells. They are made to shoot quickly, even in the semi-automatic version of these things. They're made to accommodate large capacity magazines, so you don't have to load as fast. You can shoot, automatically put another one in and keep shooting. And the true assault weapon platform rifles are designed to have a certain caliber that is unlike anything else. You get hit with an AR-15, you're gone. And you look at some of and it's online, you can go online and listen to what some of the surgeons who respond to these tragic shootings have to say. Internal organs are not recognizable once being shot with an AR-15. So easy access to firearms is certainly one reason. And I'm not going to downplay the mental health stuff. And that's the one thing that critics to gun violence prevention legislation always bring up. They say, well, it's not the gun, it's mental health. And certainly mental health has something to say about it. That's something that comes into play. But we have no more mental health problems in America as other countries. But we don't have these mass shootings like we do. We have those mass shootings, but they don't have those in the other country. And the numbers aren't even close. But one thing you have to remember, if you're mentally ill, you're more apt to become a victim of crime than a perpetrator of crime. And the statistics show that real clear. And our absolute lack of ability to do anything about this stuff is part of the problem. You know, we don't have, California does, it happened after the Isla Vista gun event. California has a provision that says if your parents or somebody, spouse, calls in and says, you know, hey, Bob is having trouble, I'm worried about him, he's got a lot of guns, he's acting weird, I think he might hurt himself or somebody, the cops can respond. They can check him out. And if they feel that there's a danger, they can get a court order and take Bob's guns. But other states don't have that stuff. California has a program that says if you're prohibited from owning firearms and you have a firearm, we're going to come get it. They have a great program in California. But they're able to do it because assault weapons and pistols are registered. So they can take that registrar and they can juxtapose that with a list of people who are prohibited from having guns. Because a lot of people have guns and then they do something that makes them prohibited. So after they're convicted, they're prohibited from owning them, but they still have them. So California's program will come to the door, knock on the door and say, hey, we got this list here. This one here says you have an AR-15. This one here says you were convicted of a felony and you're not able to have it. So this is what we'll do. We'll work with you to take your gun and help you sell it, register it to someone who doesn't live in the house, destroy it, whatever you want to do, or we're going to catch you with it and we're going to send you to prison for a long time. And it's been very, very effective. A lot of states don't have it. Iowa has a program where if you're convicted of a crime that leaves you as a prohibited individual, at your sentencing hearing, they'll ask you, okay, do you have any guns? Because now you're prohibited from owning them. So if you do, we'll help you transfer it, sell it, destroy it, whatever you want to do. If you're not willing to work with us, we're going to catch you with it, and we're going to send you to jail for a long time. So we just don't do a good job of just the easy stuff.
All right, Jackson Schreiber. During the 5 months since the Las Vegas shooting, what has Congress done regarding bump stocks? And why is it so difficult to create and pass common sense bills?
Why is it so hard to pass common sense bills?
The only thing that's been done regarding bump stock, everybody know what a bump stock is? So the only thing that's been done about bump stocks since the Las Vegas shooting is talk. There's been a couple of bills that have been introduced. The entity government regulates firearms has been grilled as to why they can't do something. Interestingly, a year before Las Vegas, I went to ATF and asked them to do something about bump stocks. And they said, we can't do it. It has to be done legislatively. We can't do it right before. My colleague, Ed Perlmutter from Colorado, who represents Columbine and Aurora, 2 tragic events happened a tragic event happened in each of those places. He also tried to get ATF to use their regulatory powers to do it and got the same answer. Now, the president claims he's going to do an executive order to intercede to stop it. I don't know how he's going to do it because ATF was very, very explicit. They did not have the regulatory authority to intercede on bump stocks. It's going to take legislation. So Congress should pass a bill. And anything else, I think, is hocus pocus. I don't care if the president's saying it or somebody else is saying it. Why it's been so hard to do anything on guns is the majority party has not been willing to take this issue on. And why that is, I think probably runs the gamut from a lot of people who are in office are afraid that if they take on guns, they're going to be punished for it in the next election. Some people are afraid that the NRA is going to support somebody else, or they're not going to get campaign contributions from the NRA. So I think it's a number of issues that factor in on that. But honestly, I think it's a lack of courage. And I've made this point on the floor of the House. I've asked the public and leadership when they were going to get the courage to bring these bills up. I have a bill that would expand background checks to make sure everybody who buys a gun through a commercial sale would have to have a background check to make sure they're not a criminal or not dangerously mentally ill. I introduced it weeks after the Sandy tragedy. And we've not had one hearing on it, we've not had one vote on it. And I know for a fact it would pass if it was brought up in the House of Representatives. Now this year, I've introduced it every year, every Congress.
You get one chance for that, Mr. Congressman? You get one chance to introduce the bill once a year?
Yeah, you only introduce it
once a year?
Once a session, once a Congress. Okay. So every Congress I've reintroduced that bill. This year, I have 201 co-authors. There's never have we had that before. The most I've had before was 188. What happened in Florida is part of the drive, because I had 180, I think I had 188 before Florida, and I've really been working at more people to sign on. So I think that these new voters, these young people, have been a real positive voice. And have been moving the needle. Hopefully there'll be enough to get a hearing on that bill, have it voted on, and passed and signed into law.
All right, thank you. Olivia English.
What improvements can be made to background checks so that people like Nicholas Cruz cannot buy a gun, and who should not be allowed to?
So what improvements can be made to background checks so guys like Cruz cannot buy a gun?
Well, there's two things that need to be done in regard to background checks. One, you need to have all the information in the system. Now, some states have very little information on people who are mentally ill or criminals in the system. So you can have the best system going. If the data's not in it to check against, it's not going to do you any good. Now, I had great success a couple of years ago with an amendment on the floor of the House in adding money to the NICS system so states could get more information into the system. We got about a $20 million increase in funding, which helped a lot. Sadly, this president is recommending to defund NICS by about that same amount, which is just a very ignorant thing to do, and it's going to create a problem. So better information, and then better sharing of information as well. Right now, all law enforcement entities don't share information that's germane to NICS with others. So if somebody gets a call that says Joe Blow is trying to buy a gun and he's prohibited, he's a problem, local cops should get a call. So the local cops can go talk to Joe Blow, find out what's going on. Hey, you're prohibited class, you can't buy a gun, what are you doing? We're going to interview them, see if there's any problem. And then the other thing is, the background check needs to apply to gun buyers, everything. Right now, the federal law says if you buy a gun from a licensed federal dealer, you have to get a background check. But there's documented cases where people have gone in, tried to buy a gun, were turned down, walked out the door, went to a gun show, or went online, bought the same gun without a background check. And they take it and they go do bad things with it. And we know background checks work. Every day, 170 felons are prohibited from buying a gun. Because that's so the gun critics will say, well, criminals won't go to a gun store and buy a gun. Every day, 170 felons try and buy a gun through a licensed dealer, and they're turned down. 50 domestic abusers a day try and buy a gun through a licensed dealer, and they're turned down. Some 20 fugitives a day try and buy a gun through a licensed dealer, and they're turned down. So we know it works. We know states that have stiffened their background check laws, have reduced their gun-related crime rate. So we know it works. We should be doing more of it.
All right, Adrian Fernandez.
Do you support, as President Trump does, the idea that teachers should carry guns?
You support the idea, as President Trump does, that teachers should carry guns.
Yeah, I've got a million problems with arming teachers. Starting probably with the fact that I don't know how much good it would do. You know, you think about these shooting events on school campuses, they've all been by a perpetrator with a long gun. And I can tell you, you know, it's pretty good to be accurate with a handgun if you're me. And it decreases markedly with every step back. Get about here, and it's hit and miss. So it's going to be really tough. Somebody comes in here shooting a gun, and everybody's running and scattering. You know, I don't know a lot of teachers that I'd have confidence in, or a lot of anybody I'd have confidence in, whipping out their handgun and, you know, playing a Lone Ranger or any other. So I think there's probably more questions that are raised rather than solutions with people having guns. Also, I don't think there's a teacher in our district or any place else who's paid an adequate salary. And I don't think there's a teacher in our district or any place else who's not working too hard. And they have tremendous demands against their time, everything from grading papers to getting future or more current education, and to clock in. Also, by the way, I want you to go spend an hour a day at the range. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. I think there's other things we can do that would help a lot more. Now, having said that, schools can do that, and there are certain states and certain schools that allow it to happen, and it's kind of a local and state control issue. But I'm not interested in seeing that from a federal perspective. We're certainly not requiring, and I have trouble even on the voluntary basis. I don't think it works.
I think you made a great point too when you were talking to high schoolers about potentially a teacher being overcome when he was holding a gun by a student, or the gun being stolen out of his desk, locked desk, or something like that. I mean, there's so many things.
Absolutely true. You know, when I talked to the seniors, I was telling them that I have a colleague of mine from Georgia who had his handgun stolen last night in Atlanta, Georgia. And that happens every place. So, you know, if your teacher's got their handgun locked in the drawers, or somebody steals it, or in some school districts where you have, you know, a rowdy population, school population, it's not uncommon for teachers to be overcome by their students. And if that happens, and they take the gun, there's just nothing good that come with that. And the other thing I told them is that after the Las Vegas massacre, I met with a number of people who were victims of that shooting. And one guy who was in the band, it was one of the country western bands playing. And he said, he was a young guy, he said that just the week before, he bought his dad an AR-15 for his dad's birthday. He had a gun and a license to carry it, was in the bus. So when the shooting broke out, he grabbed his pistol and he headed for the door. And one of the security guys, one of the band security guys goes, "Whoa, where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to go out there and help." He says, "You can go out there and help." He says, "First of all, it's a rifle. And what are you going to do with that handgun?" The rifles, you know, in this case, I don't know if anybody knew at the time, we found out it was over 500 yards away. And with a handgun, you know, I don't care who you are, Superman, you're not going to be able to do anything with that. And he said, essentially, the security guy said, "And by the way, you go running out of this bus with that pistol in your hand, how many steps do you think you take before a cop sees you with a gun and shoots you?" And you know, cops in the military, they're trained and trained and trained and trained. And in civilian life, we don't have the time nor the ability to train up.
All righty.
Brianna Iceland.
If you had the absolute power of a monarch,
absolute power of a monarch, what common sense gun laws would you pass?
Well, if I was the benevolent dictator, first and foremost, as I think I've been pretty clear on this, I would expand background checks. And I've been very, very generous in my bill to expand them. Remember, I said only commercial sales. So I'm giving some leeway to family members, close friends. I think the term that's used a lot is hunting buddies if they want to exchange guns. But the truth of the matter is, the best one would be background checks, period, like we have in California. Anybody who transfers a gun in California has to go through a background check. And that's probably the most fail-safe way to deal with it. The second thing, and most effective, would be a limit on capacity, on magazine capacity, to reduce that. I think those are the two most important things. I would remove the prohibition that the Center for Disease Control has against being able to do research on gun violence. I think it's stupid, it's costing lives, it should have been done a long time ago. And third, I would do what I mentioned earlier, the fourth point I mentioned earlier, and that would be to allow some sort of intervention, some sort of restraining order against people if a family member or associate called in expressing concerns. And then those are the main ones.
Hannah Morris?
A lot of people ask, do you support the building of President Wall?
Support the building of President Trump's wall?
No, I don't support the building of the wall. I think it's a colossal waste of money that will have very little impact on anything other than, I guess, the people who made, how tall is this thing? 10 feet?
No, I would say it's like almost 30. I've seen segments that are 20 to 25 feet.
I'll go with the bigger number.
Yeah.
If it's 25 feet, the only people who are going to make money, other than the contractors who build it, will be the people who make 26-foot ladders. So, there's a desire to come to this country. People are going to come. The walls are colossal waste of money, and I don't think it helps at all. What we ought to do is we ought to do comprehensive immigration reform, fix the root of the problem, and that fixes the problem plus saves money.
All right, and our last question from our students from Cole Ketchup.
What are your thoughts on the investigators of the Russian handling 2016 presidential election?
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the investigations of the Russians meddling in the 2016 presidential election?
Well, I don't think there's any question that the Russians meddled in our last election, and I think they'll continue to do that. And we need to be very, very mindful of it, and we need to continue to investigate so we can figure out how to stop them from doing it. It is critically important. Now, the other side of that was what that investigation looks like and who's doing it. And there's a special counsel, former FBI director, former federal judge, is leading an independent counsel effort to do the investigation. He should be allowed to do his work. He should present his work to Congress and to the American people, and the chips should fall where they're headed.
All right, so those are the questions from our students. I also want to give my teachers an opportunity, or any of our adults here that have been listening, if they have any questions or wanted to ask Mr. Thompson, you know, certainly welcome to do that. I have, go ahead.
I have a call, so I can speak very loud. I was wondering where you are right now in your life, where you are with your involvement in politics, your wisdom. What yourself today would tell your 8th grade self going into the future now? Because it's completely
Great
different.
question. Great question. What would you yourself tell your 8th grade self now? What would tell your 8th grade self looking back in?
That's a good question. Well, I think I already told you guys that. Don't be stupid like I was. I didn't put the time into school. I dropped out of school, as I told you. It's a lot easier to do it the conventional way. Please trust him when I tell you your teachers, your parents, the adults around you are much smarter than you think they are. So give them a little bit of credit for that. Listen to what people say. Think it through and try and make your best decisions. If I was doing 8th grade all over again, I would have studied a lot harder, and I would have pursued athletics differently than I did as well. But you don't get any mulligans. You don't get do-overs. So you make the best of it that you can now. Enjoy your time. Enjoy everything that school has to offer, not only the educational opportunities, but the fun stuff too. Participate in that with your classmates. And how many people read? Read more.
That's what a teacher once told me, the three things you can do. So we also have another gentleman here, distinguished gentleman. I'd like to recognize that Mr. Mo Simon is here. He's our Lake County South District Supervisor.
Hello everyone, Mo Simon, District 1 Supervisor. I'm your local representative here for District 1 on the Board of Supervisors here in Lake County. I was a Bronco, I was a Mustang. Don't know me, I coach here at the high school too with Coach Holbrook over there. He was my coach when I was in high school. Today I came to just support Congressman Thomspon. We really believe that he's the right man for the job, and really glad to have him here today. I do have a gift for you. I got a Mustang hat, which everybody will turn into in setting here, but this is Mustang and Bronco country, so I'll make sure you leave with a gift, and you're always welcome. Question or something like that, your parents, get it to the teachers. I'll help answer it. The congressman, I'll get it to him. But he's a great man. I support him everything that he's doing. So hopefully we'll get this stuff figured out that he's been talking about today. So congressman, thank you very much. I feel the same way about him.
We can't let you leave without taking a picture. Okay, so this gentleman wants to take a picture of us. Brad, you want to try and get a picture of the whole group? Okay, so back here. All right, so Mr. Thomspon, put you right in the center here.
Okay, no child should have to worry about coming to school and having to face some sort of a mass shooting situation like that. You should be able to come to school ready to have fun, ready to learn, and enjoy your teen years.
Go Broncos.